Okay, hello folks, this is just a brief video. Now, just a brief video to test your database connection is working in, to make sure that your database connection is working, okay? So this is just going to be a brief video. Now, do not attempt this until you have looked at the video in the videos file in chapter 10 called Database Introduction, all right? Do not attempt to do this until we until you've looked at database introduction, and also there is a file inside the chapter 10. Now all explanations of all the files you need is in chapter 10 database introduction. Okay, do not attempt this until you view the database introduction video. Okay, now if you have that viewed, and if you have your MySQL workbench set up, if you have created your two databases, if you have XAMPP installed in your machine, if you have MySQL workbench installed in your machine, then you do this. Do not do that until you have XAMPP installed, MySQL workbench installed, your database is created. Okay? Do not attempt to do that. So look at database introduction video. All right, now if you have that all done, you'll understand what I'm going to be doing now. So first thing I'm going to do now, we are connecting up to a database. Okay, so we have to turn on our database server. Now my database server is contained within this one here, XAMPP. Okay, so it's going to be in the C drive, XAMPP. Scroll down here, XAMPP control.exe, double click on it. It brings up this one. So we want a web server. We don't absolutely need the web server, but later on we might be doing something with it. Okay, in MySQL. All right, both turned on. Now, so we create chapter 10 working set, and we are going to create a new project. So new Java project. This is going to be 10.1, and this is called Introducing the interface of JDBC. Okay, finish. Now all I'm going to get to do is show you how to create a connection. All right, now the connection, the necessary classes and interfaces that you need to connect to a database and to work with a database are not inside here. Okay, this is the standard library. This contains all of the classes, all classes to do with streams, all classes to do with IO2, all classes to do with IO streams, all classes to do with enums, all classes to do with generics, all classes to do with dates and times, exceptions, threads, etc. They're all included here. All right, all the interfaces and classes are inside here. Now, when you're connecting up to a database, there's a couple of different technologies you can use. We're going to be using JDBC. Okay, it's a technology for our connecting up to database. Now, it's not in the system library here. All right, so we have to import this library into each project. Now, I'm going to do it somewhat slightly, well, it's not different really, but it's fun. Right, so I need to create a package. com.android. Okay, now we go to that particular folder. All right, now the simplest way to go to that folder is right click there, go to properties, click on properties, and you'll see that's where it is. And there's, oh, my screen's not working again. Hold on a second. And toggle PC settings. that up. Okay. Now, so that's the address. Now, the simplest way to go to that address is if you click on this little button here. So click on properties. So click on com.android. I'll show you that again. So right click, properties. That's the address. Click on that one. It opens up the folder. So inside here. All right. Now, I am going to actually put the library in here. Oh, fudge. All right. So I'm actually going to physically put the library in here. Now, you don't have to do this, by the way. You can put the library anywhere. All right. Because we're going to be doing something called adding to the build path. Now, I'm going to put it in this particular folder. Now, you could put it in another folder. You could put it, for instance, you could put it inside, just inside that folder. But I'm going to put it in the same folder as my code. All right. Now, now the libraries are stored in something called a jar file, which is basically a zipped up file. All right. So the libraries of JDBC are stored up in a jar file. Any other libraries you go to download yourself will also be stored in a jar file. Now, I have took the liberty of downloading for you. Okay. Now, where are they? They're in the Google Drive. All right, I'll show you where they are. So it's in the Google Drive. It's in code. It's in book. It's in chapter 10. You'll see there MySQL connector Java-8.0.11.jar. Now, this connector, so I'm going to put that in there. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it into there. All right. Now, so I'm going to refresh this guy. Refresh. Now, still not working. All right. Now, what you have to do here is you have to add this guy to the build path. Now, all the build path is really is telling you what libraries you can use. Now, if I right click on here, and if I go to the build path here and configure build path, we'll see that the only library it's using at the moment is JRE System Library Java SE 1.8, which is this one here. Okay, so it's only using the standard library. You can see it there. All right, so that's the standard library it's using. Now, we also want it to use this one. So how we tell Java that we want to use a particular library is we add to the build path. It's as simple as this. Now, at the moment, it's not added to the build path. You just go right click. You go build path. You go add to build path. Ta-da! It's now added to the build path. Okay. Now it works. Now, I'm just going to do a brief now. I'm just going to do a brief bit of code. I'm not even going to explain the code that I've done here. Okay. So I'm going to create a new main, public static void main string args, finish, and examples. Okay, now I'm going to go static void ex1. Now I'll explain all of this code tomorrow. I just want to show you that it is working. Okay, now each time you want to connect up to database, you need to reference that library. All right, now I prefer to actually put it inside the project. All right, I prefer to put it inside the project. Yeah, that's the way you do it. I explain why you should put it inside the project rather than somewhere else. You can link to it, can be in another location on your computer. Okay, now we're just going to copy in this code.
Are you free now, no?
Why?
Or it wants to video make a cake.
Video make a cake. Other class, that's my sister Patricia. Hello, Patricia. You're on video.
Okay, no, I don't like that.
I'll be out in a minute, Patricia. Yeah, I'll be out in a minute. Oops, sorry, that's not the one. Now, so I'll just briefly go through, very, very briefly. Now, I'm not going to explain it. I just want to see that it works. Okay. Briefly explain what's happening here. All right. So when you're connecting up to a database, you have to use a URL. Remember when we're connecting files? Connection to files using in IO2, you can put in the class, you can put in the path, or you can put in a URL or URI. Here you can put in a URL. Now URIs can contain multiple information, just like URLs. All right. So this is going to be the string we're going to use to connect to a particular database. So the technology we're going to use is JDBC. Okay, which stands for Java Database Connectivity. Sorry, that's a protocol. Okay, now what's a protocol? Protocol is just a set of rules. Okay, so it's a set of rules. What we put in here is the application we're connecting to. So we're going to use the set of rules governed by JDBC to connect up to MySQL. Now there is other types of databases. There is Oracle. There is, oh, I have a couple of names there. There's a couple of different ones. The one we're going to be using is MySQL. So we're going to connect up to MySQL using the rules governed by JDBC. All right. And each of these things are separated by colons, isn't it? Yeah. So this guy here, this is the name of the machine we're connecting up to. The name of the machine we're connecting up to is your own machine. Your own machine is always called localhost. Okay. You have to provide a port number. Now that's just a setting. That's all it is. It's not a physical port on your machine. It's not a physical connection on your machine. It's just a number that tells it this is a special setting that's reserved for databases. So we're going to use the rules governed by JDBC. We're going to connect up to the MySQL application. We're going to connect up to our local machine on port 3306. 3306 is reserved for databases. And what database are we going to connect up to? My database. If we open up MySQL Workbench. Okay. You'll see I have a database here called My Database. So we're actually connecting up to My Database. Okay, so the URL is made up of protocol. Okay, you remember in URI you could use HTTP, HTTPS, file, a couple other ones. Okay, now there is other types. You can also use something called ODBC for MySQL, which is Object Database Connectivity. Okay, and there is another one, I can't think of it. The one we're going to be covering is JDBC. Okay, so JDBC, it's the protocols, the set of rules we're going to, what we're going to connect up to our database. The type of the database is going to be MySQL database. It's going to be on this machine on port 3306, which is just a setting that's reserved for databases. And what database are we going to connect up to? We're going to connect up to My Database, which is this guy. It's got all these tables in it. All right. Now, so I'm going to go down further. So here's other examples of URIs. Okay. JDBC, now post JDBC Oracle. Okay. You can use JDBC using the Oracle. Now that's Oracle databases. I think it's called Oracle DB. I think, or Oracle. All right. Now that is extremely expensive, but it's the best there is. Okay. I don't know what thin does. That is the machine we're connecting up to. We're connecting up to a machine 123, 123, 123, 123, 1521. It could be on the other side of the world, and it's going to be connecting up to a database called Zoo. All right. So there are other examples of URLs that can be used for connecting to a database. Now, the other two things you need to know when connecting to a database is what username you're going to connect in under. Root. We've only got one user on our machine. Now, we might create other users. All right. We might create other users. Now, username, root, string, passwords. Now, passwords would never be stored in code like this. All right. They'd be stored in some other means. All right. They wouldn't be stored like this. They'd never be. Now, they're not supposed to, but they are, unfortunately, sometimes. Some people do it. All right. Just going to say that if we're using a real-life system, you will never store the password like so. All right. We will be showing you at the end of this chapter how to store passwords without actually storing the passwords. Okay. What you're storing is a hash. But to make things easier for ourselves, we have a username. Now, root was the only user we have on our database server, and the password to get into it was password. So from before, I close it down, I open it up again, MySQL workbench. So if I go to here, go to edit connection, we can see here. Now 127.0.0.1, that is also localhost. Okay, port 3306. You remember that from the URL. The username is root. Password. There is no password. Okay, I haven't set a password. I could set a password by going, I think that's how you do it. I think you just go stored in Vault and it goes there. All right, but we don't have a password. So you don't have a password. That means your password is, I'll say it yet. Your password is a blank. Okay. Now, scrolling down here, I'm going fairly fast. So connection. Con. So connection, screen is going blank. Connection is an interface, one of the interfaces of JDBC. Okay. So you can call a new connection. Now, what you do is you could get something called a driver manager. Okay. Now, it uses the factory pattern. Remember the factory pattern? The factory pattern is a pattern we use to create particular objects. So driver manager dot get connection. This is what creates our database connection. Now it takes three things. It takes a URL, which contains all of this information. I'm using JDBC to connect up to a MySQL database. It's on this machine using port 3306. And the database on this server that we're going to connect up to is called my database. Okay, that's the format it takes. All right. So all that information there is in the URI. Then you go username. What was the username? The username was root. Then we go passwords. The password is blank. Now, as I said, you'd never do that in real life. I'm just doing it here to make it easier for ourselves. Now, if the connection is live, it'll print off something like that. Okay? If the connection is live, it'll print off something like that. That's just the name of the connection. Now, every time we make a connection, we're supposed to close it. Okay? If you remember in IO streams, you could use a try with resources. Okay? Every time you open a database connection, you should always close it. Now, if this was a try with resources, namely, if we created this guy inside the try block here, it will be automatically closed. Now, but this is just testing to see that our connection works. On it. Okay, so hold on a minute, examples.ex1. Yeah, there's our connection. Our connection works. Now, to prove that the connection is working, right, I'm going to go back to XAMPP again. I'm going to bring it up here. Now, if I stop the MySQL server, okay, so it's my database server is no longer connected. It's no longer working. Okay, it's no longer on. If I run this code again, even takes a while, we get a com MySQL CJ blah, 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 communications link failure. Doesn't even give an exception. Okay, and hold on, that is an exception, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So it takes a bit of going through because it's doing something. So there, that is the exception. All right, never mind that shit. That's just a message just print out. Okay, so my MySQL server is turned off. I'm going to turn it on again. I'm going to run it again. Ta-da! We're connected. And that's all I have time for doing today, because I had to take a video of my sister baking a cake, as you heard. The joys of COVID-19. Okay, but keep safe, folks. And that's 3 short videos today. I'll hopefully do a longer one tomorrow, and you'll see me again tomorrow. Okay, bye, folks. We'll see you. Bye.